The details of Trump's plan to end the war in Ukraine have emerged, and it's both incredibly dumb and also incredibly cruel. Just how did Steve Witkoff manage to write a plan that doesn't even make sense within itself? It's not even a good surrender plan. We're going to break it down point by point, show you guys exactly why this thing is loaded with internal contradictions and is almost comically poorly written. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Hit subscribe and let's crack into it. If you wear body armor, you already know not all plates are created equal. Today's sponsor, RMA Armament, isn't some Chinese drop shipper. It's not a rebrand of some manufactured overseas armor. It's American-made armor, made by people who know what it means to put your life behind it. The founder is a Marine Corps vet and former law enforcement officer who named the company after his kids because, as we know, the whole point of body armor is to get you home safe to your family. They've been making armor for over a decade now in a 30,000 square foot facility in Iowa using American-made materials and 100% American labor. I actually picked up their XRT plate in the Sappy cut. You notice this is thinner than anything I was issued by the US military in Afghanistan and significantly lighter. But the best part is that this, despite being so much lighter, is rated against almost every mid-size cartridge, almost every full-size standard issue rifle round, and even some armor-piercing rounds. It's made of ceramic, so you're not going to have to worry about spall, and it's available in shooter's cut and Sappy. RMA has body armor from level 3 soft armor all the way up to level 4 rated plates. Bottom line, RMA is doing it right. An American company, American made, built by people who understand what it means to put your life behind your body armor. So hit the link in the description, check out the catalog and videos. They've got some sales, and see why RMA is called the King of Armor. Okay, so here is a verbatim text of the plan by the Trump administration, negotiated by Steve Witkoff and Russian liaison to the Trump administration, Kirill Dmitriev. Now, I want to point out one thing is that Kirill Dmitriev is not a foreign policy official. He is officially the head of the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund and has been an informal liaison with the Trump administration for years. Now, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that because obviously a lot of governments like to have these kind of less formal ways of broaching topics that might be too sensitive to do publicly. But in terms of negotiating a peace agreement, you want to make sure that you have major players involved. So again, Steve Witkoff, Trump, Kirill Dmitriev, very not someone. This plan should not be. Those should not be the last stop of this plan. Right? It should be endorsed by a senior formal official with real foreign policy credentials. Someone like Sergei Lavrov should come out and say, yes, we support this. Obviously, Trump or Putin himself, Marco Rubio, someone else. There's reported Jared Kushner is involved, which, by the way, Jared Kushner doesn't have a foreign policy role at all. He's officially not a member of the government. He's like you and I. Imagine if you and I got brought in to do this. It's the whole thing. It has all the markings of being something deeply unserious. But let's take a look at it inside. Okay, here's the proposal verbatim. Ukraine's sovereignty will be confirmed. Let's be generous and say that this is just a statement of intent, right? Right. But what does it mean to be sovereign? Look at sovereign citizens. They have one definition. Another country might have a different definition. And we're going to talk about whether or not Ukraine's sovereignty is actually confirmed within this document. Point 2. A comprehensive non-aggression agreement will be concluded between Russia, Ukraine, and Europe. All ambiguities of the last 30 years will be considered settled. Holy shit. This, guys, if you could do this, you would be considered the greatest diplomat of the 21st century. Okay? So this would require a series of agreements between literally dozens of countries, probably significant legislative changes, and it would require a level of transparency, particularly from Russia, and a level of unity from Europe that has been unprecedented in decades. Okay, so all you have to do is so far we have a topic so vague it can't be pinned down. It's like saying that this treaty is based on trust and love. It's like, guys, that means nothing. 2, we're going to, at a future date, achieve one of the greatest diplomatic concessions in modern history. Okay, now let's see number 3 it requires. It is expected that Russia will not invade neighboring countries and NATO will not expand further. Okay, so 1, it is expected is not a treaty term, okay? It's setting an expectation, and generally the way these things work is if-then statements. Now, it's implied that the treaty will remain in force as long as NATO doesn't expand and Russia doesn't invade neighboring countries. But here's the thing. You may note that Ukraine is not a NATO member. Ukraine was not moving towards being a NATO member in 2014, 2022. And so why is these conditions about NATO in here? But more importantly, guys, if Ukraine's not a NATO member, then how can Ukraine be a signator of this treaty? In order to achieve this, NATO itself has to change. By the way, it needs to alter its charter. The NATO charter says that any nation can apply for membership within NATO, anyone. That includes nations who are currently in the Russian sphere of influence or nations who are currently afraid of Russian aggression. And again, if you say, well, wait, you don't have to worry about Russian aggression because Russia is expected to not invade neighboring countries. Well, that's not the same thing as a guarantee. NATO is a guarantee. So it's a pinky promise that Russia won't invade neighboring countries. Do you see how it's starting to build the internal contradictions? And again, Ukraine, you need sign off from all NATO countries to achieve this, by the way. Then it says a dialogue. So another treaty within a treaty. A dialogue will be held between Russia and NATO, mediated by the United States. Between the United States, the primary NATO member. So a dialogue will be held between Russia and the United States, mediated by the United States, to resolve security issues and create conditions for de-escalation in order to ensure global security and increase opportunities for cooperation and future economic development. So NATO, not an economic alliance, but I understand the idea. But to say we're just going to talk about our issues, again, this is a treaty within a treaty. And if you can resolve the conflict between Russia and NATO with a dialogue, again, so you just have to become, again, another world-class diplomat of the century, right? This would be a diplomatic achievement of literally the century in Europe. So just become the greatest diplomat in history twice, and we're only on point 4. Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. Okay, again, so it sounds like a third treaty needs to be written in which Ukraine receives reliable security guarantees. Then it says the size of the Ukrainian armed forces will be limited to 600,000 personnel. This is a problem because this is a strange condition for Russia to impose because the Russian armed forces also do not have a cap on their personnel size. They can have they have a multi-million person strong army, including a massive reserve. Why is it important for Russia to cap the size of the Ukrainian armed forces? By the way, guys, the Ukrainian armed forces at no point, not even today, at their largest size in history, do they have the capacity to meaningfully invade Russian territory. The capacity does not exist. And so the idea that the only intention to limiting the Ukrainian armed forces size is to make them vulnerable to Russian invasion. That is it. The Ukrainian armed forces have only been used in defensive efforts following a Russian invasion. Ukraine has not independently invaded Russia or any of its neighbors since becoming an independent nation. It has not happened, right? It was a limited incursion, less than 50 miles at its apex, only 2 years after Russia invaded Ukrainian territory, or after the full-scale invasion. So the idea that this is important is a clear indicator of real Russian intentions, which is to ensure Ukraine lacks the ability to meaningfully resist. Now, Ukraine was going to alter its constitution. I mean, after these other 4 treaties, Ukraine rewriting its constitution is trivially easy. That it will never join NATO, And Ukraine will never, by the way, it says NATO will never expand further and also will never admit Ukraine. Who wrote this? NATO agrees not to station troops in Ukraine. Oh, interesting. So, wait. Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees, but not so reliable as to have actual troops in Ukraine. Interesting. By the way, guys, fun fact, if you're a sovereign nation, who do you think decides what military partners come into your country? The United States, we invite our military partners to come train with us from all over the world. That's our right. That's because we're a sovereign nation. Does the Palestinian Authority have the right to invite nations into their governance system? Can they invite Egyptian military to come liaise with them? No, because they're not sovereign. So, Interesting. European fighter jets will be stationed in Poland. Yeah. Again, what's the alternative? A ban on the Polish Air Force? What is this? Then it says the U.S. guarantee. The U.S. will receive compensation for the guarantee. From who? What guarantee? If Ukraine invades Russia, it will lose the guarantee. Okay. If Russia invades Ukraine, in addition to a decisive coordinated military response, a military response, guys, all global sanctions will be reinstated. Okay, so the whole globe has to be rolled into this. And recognition of the new territory and all other benefits of this deal will be revoked. Okay, so the U.S. will totally have a coordinated military response if Russia invades Ukraine. A response, guys. Do you think the Trump administration, by the way, what do you think their response would be if Russia were to invade Ukraine? Just to guess. If Ukraine launches a missile at Moscow or St. Petersburg without cause, the security guarantee will be deemed invalid. Without cause. Okay. Interesting. Weird. Because this is also bizarre because it gives Ukraine carve-outs to launch missiles into Crimea. Very weird. It says Ukraine is eligible for EU membership and will receive short-term preferential access to the European market while the issue is being considered. Okay, so here we are. This is additional treaty number 5. A powerful global package of measures to rebuild Ukraine. Guys, this is also grammatically written like you're drunk. Whoever did this was drunk. Like, NATO agrees not to station troops in Ukraine, right? So that's a sentence. European fighter jets, but look, this is a sentence in the present tense. NATO agrees to not station troops in Ukraine. This is a sentence in the future tense. European fighter jets will be stationed, okay? NATO agrees, present tense. Future tense, the size of the Ukrainian armed forces will be limited to. It's minor, but it reflects a real lack of thoughtful wording, right? Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. Again, all of these things appear to be events in the present, except for these ones in the future. But this one isn't a sentence at all. It just says the U.S. guarantee, right? And again, I'll give them a pass because of these weird bullet points. But like, then it says Ukraine is eligible. We're in the present tense. And then this one isn't a sentence at all. It just states a powerful global package of measures. What are you talking about? What is this in reference to? A powerful global package of measures to rebuild Ukraine? Like, where's the verb? There's no verb here. Who wrote this? Oh, a Ukraine Development Fund. You mean like the one the U.S. already extracted from Ukraine in exchange for aid, the aid that we've now stopped providing? But we'll totally invest in your data centers and artificial intelligence. What? You guys are going to cooperate with Ukraine to jointly rebuild, modernize Ukraine's gas infrastructure. Joint efforts to rehabilitate. Oh, joint. So Russia won't have to pay for it, though. The United States is going to pay to rebuild Ukraine. Interesting. And then just the word infrastructure development. A powerful package of measures, including infrastructure development. Extraction of minerals and natural resources. Again, a deal that already exists. And then a mandate with a verb. The World Bank will develop a special financing package to accelerate these efforts. This is written by like a moron. This is guys, this is like a notes document that you would write prior to proposing a treaty. This is literally written as like a Google Doc. I guarantee it. This isn't even written in proper English. Russia will be reintegrated into the global economy. Okay. Lifting of sanctions will be discussed and agreed upon in stages and on a case-by-case basis. Interesting. United States will enter a long-term economic cooperation agreement for mutual development in the areas of energy, projects in the Arctic, mutually beneficial corporate opportunities. Russia will be invited to rejoin the G8. So Russia, it says, will be reintegrated into the global economy. Will lift sanctions eventually, but also the U.S. will do mutual economic cooperation. It's very weird. Frozen funds will be used as follows. The U.S. will receive 50% of profits, guys. Of course. This peace deal sucks. And also, the U.S. is going to extract all this money from Ukraine. Brilliant. And the Europeans will put in $100 billion of their own money. Oh, wow. When were we going to tell the Europeans about this? So now the Europeans have to sign off on this, by the way. By Europe, what do we mean? Do we mean the EU? Do we mean the largest contributors? Do we mean NATO? Unclear. Europe is a continent. Okay, the EU is an entity. NATO is an entity. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, Russia's a part of Europe. Fuck. Will Belarus do it? Russia will enshrine in law its policy of non-aggression towards Ukraine and Europe. Oh my God, dude. Holy shit. Russian law serves Putin. It's whatever he wants it to be, guys. Russia is not a country with the rule of law. A working group will be established. What? Okay, this is a real. This is as close to a real treaty. The United States and Russia will agree to extend the validity of treaties on the non-proliferation and control of nuclear weapons, including START 1. See, that's a real point. See, it's a specific treaty where both countries make a specific concrete agreement. Ukraine will be a non-nuclear state. Okay. Now, you might recall there's already a treaty in force that says that, but that treaty says that actually the U.S. already guarantees Ukrainian sovereignty in that treaty. Yikes. Awkward. I wouldn't even bring that up. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Oh, so now Russia has conquered the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Oh, despite the fact that Zaporizhzhia is not one of the agreed upon territories to be switcherooed. So the Ukrainians are going to control Zaporizhzhia, but also they'll have to give their energy to Russia. By the way, guys, what's it called when a country is forced to turn over its resources to a larger, its larger dominant power? Oh, that's called colonialism. And boy, that sounds incompatible with Ukrainian sovereignty. Fascinating stuff, guys. So, both countries are going to implement educational programs in schools at promoting understanding and tolerance of different cultures and eliminating racism and prejudice. Protection of linguistic minorities. What will Russian education look like in about Ukraine? Well, so far, again, and what will happen if will Russia be adopting these rules on religious tolerance and linguistic minorities? No, of course not. Only Ukraine will. Despite the fact that this says something totally different. Guarantee the rights of Ukrainian and Russian media and education. Interesting. So Russian state media. Again, is it sovereign? Is RT allowed to broadcast on U.S. airwaves? No. Is Sputnik allowed to broadcast on U.S. airwaves? Also no, because they are state-backed propaganda. So again, forcing another country to receive your propaganda. By the way, will Ukrainian television channels be allowed in Russia? No, of course not. All Nazi ideology and activities must be rejected and prohibited. This is just stupid. This is just stupid. Russia's not going to stop its Nazis. And again, a country with an elected Jewish leader, probably doesn't have a systematic Nazi problem. Now, Kherson and Zaporizhia. Okay, this is also, there's no exchange of territories, by the way. Crimea, Luhansk, Donetsk recognized as Russian. Kherson and Zaporizhia, also, wherever Russia conquered, it gets to keep. Russia will relinquish a tiny number of territories in essentially a tiny portion of Kharkiv. Oh, and Ukrainian forces will also yield additional territory, Donetsk Oblast. It will be a neutral demilitarized zone. Obviously, there is no condition. Who gets to decide if it's been violated, right? Internationally recognized territory belong to the Russian Federation. Is it a demilitarized zone or does it belong to the Russian Federation? Russian forces will not enter this demilitarized zone. But what if they are forces of the independent Luhansk People's Republic? Remember, this is the game Russia already played. This is literally straight out of 2014's stupid agreements, right? And they say, we promise not to change these arrangements by force. Any security guarantees will not apply in the event of a breach of this commitment. Oh, interesting. Well, wait. Not a Ukrainian breach of this commitment, just a breach of the commitment. So if the Russian Federation, as this wording indicates, if the Russian Federation simply seizes part of Kherson, the security guarantee doesn't apply. It doesn't say just for Ukraine. It doesn't say to the aggressor. Huh. Interesting. Clearly, this is a really airtight security guarantee. Russia will not prevent Ukraine from using the Dnieper River for commercial activities, grain transport. And one more, of course, the final point. A humanitarian committee is going to solve all the other issues. All for all prisoners and bodies, no verification required, of course. Civilian detainees and hostages will be returned, including children. No verification plan. Family unification plan will be implemented. You know, they'll just sort out these fundamental issues. Interesting. And Ukraine has to hold elections in 100 days. So again, who decides when elections take place in a foreign nation, in a nation? Is it, do the Canadians decide when U.S. election is? Does China decide when Brazilian elections are? No, actually, I think a sovereign country decides when its own elections are held. Also, in 100 days from when? From the date the treaty goes into force? From the implementation of the agreements? 100 days when? In 100 days from when? The answer is it doesn't matter. It's about Russia demonstrating that it electorally controls Ukraine. And Russia wants an opportunity to influence Ukrainian elections. By the way, what's very important is that the Ukrainian residents of these exchanged territories, right? De facto recognition means that United States will, but de facto means that Ukraine isn't formally recognizing it. So will those citizens be allowed to vote? They're Ukrainian citizens and technically still in contact. Like this is, again, the treaty itself is fundamentally incompatible with itself because you can't have de facto recognition of, say, okay, we're going to de facto recognize that Russia's occupying these territories, but that also means that you have to say, oh, de facto, these citizens have changed citizenship, but they haven't. They're still Ukrainian citizens. So how will they vote in an election in just 100 days when there's no condition to explain how they can vote if they are in areas that are occupied? Do you see the problem here? Oh, and by the way, any war criminals get full amnesty, no matter what you did. Oh, and it's legally binding by the Peace Council, headed by President Donald J. Trump. Sanctions will be imposed for violations. What? No, the treaty isn't in force anymore if it's violated. It says up there. Oh, the ceasefire will take effect immediately after both sides retreat to agreed points and begin implementation of the agreement. Well, only Ukraine is expected to retreat. Oh, no, sorry. The Russians are going to give up about 100 square miles in Kharkiv. Monitored and guaranteed by the Peace Council. Absolute insanity, guys. I don't know what to tell you. This is maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And the insane part is that the administration really seriously believes that this is great diplomacy. This is airtight shit. Because look, they're threatening to cut intelligence and weapons to pressure Ukraine into a new peace deal, which, by the way, Congress passed those weapons allocations. Those are from Congress. So the president and White House doesn't have the authority to even make this threat. Okay. To say that these are widely seen as unfavorable, they're widely seen as retarded. I can't even begin to tell you how stupid this is. And here's the thing. It's so stupid that Russia is pretending that this plan doesn't even really exist. Russia's like, well, we haven't seen it. We've never heard of this thing. Which, again, is one of the reasons you don't do these back channels. Because what if Kirill Dmitriev isn't authorized to make a deal at all? Right? What if he got told by Putin, listen, Kirill, just stall for time. Just buy us some time with the Americans. And Kirill goes, don't worry about it, buddy. I got it. I'm going to talk to Steve, and I'm going to lie to him just like I lied about Alaska, and I'm going to get him all worked up and in a tiz, and they'll spin their wheels for a while, and you, Putin, are going to get another couple weeks before American sanctions get implemented. That's why you don't do this. You say, listen, if you're serious about this, then put your name behind it. Come out in public and say, this is our real offer. So the fact they haven't even done this, meanwhile, the U.S., the White House is like, this is for reals, these guys. And the Russians are like, nah, we've never seen such a thing. Now, of course, Zelensky has been told this is the real deal, and he's come out and said that Ukraine is facing one of its most difficult moments because obviously it risks losing a key ally. Meanwhile, Europe is saying all the things that we're saying. This isn't a plan. This is a series of agreements that would have to be reached in order to achieve a plan, plus telling Russia that it gets to take whatever it conquered. This is completely insane. Right? It says, for any peace plan to succeed, it needs to be supported by Ukraine and has to be supported by Europe. The pressure must be on the aggressor, not the victim. Rewarding aggression will only invite more of it. Bottom line is, the peace plan is not doable. It's based on appeasement of the aggressor. This could only bring more war and brutality to Ukraine and all of Europe. I want to bear in mind, guys, that this deal rides on the back of the fact that Ukraine has launched, Russia launched a series of drone strikes into NATO countries, including Poland. Russian intelligence sabotaged Polish infrastructure literally last week, and Russian combat jets have violated NATO country airspace on half a dozen occasions. And in this treaty, Russia gets rewarded for that. It actually shows that doing those things actually has defeated NATO. Right? In this treaty, Russia is telling NATO that it's going to rewrite its charter to protect Russian interests. So, there you go. Anyway, guys, that's all I had on this video. Thanks to our Colonel tier members, Sergei Zinchenko, Thomas Anderson, William Young, Georgiev, L90, and all of our Lieutenant tier members. Thanks so much, as always, and cheers.